What if everything you learned about the American Revolution in school was only half the story? The real history is darker, stranger, and far more fascinating than any textbook ever told you. In this video, we uncover the untold secrets of the American Revolution, the hidden deals, the forgotten heroes, the betrayals, and the shocking truth behind America's founding that most history books leave out. In this episode of Hidden America TV, why George Washington almost lost the revolution multiple times, the secret spy network that saved America, the British soldier who nearly changed everything, forgotten founding fathers' history erased, the real reason France joined the war. It wasn't about freedom. Dark secrets of the Continental Army nobody talks about. July 4th, 1776. The day America was born. You know the story. You've heard it 100 times. A group of brave colonists stood up to the most powerful empire on the planet and won. But what if I told you that the version of that story you learned in school is missing almost everything? The real story of the American Revolution is one of near total collapse, of secret deals and smoky backrooms, of spies, betrayals, and a founding generation that wasn't quite as noble as they'd like you to believe. This is Hidden America TV. And today, we pull back the curtain on America's most famous revolution, the parts they never put in the textbooks. Let's start with the man every American knows, George Washington. Tall, brave, undefeated, father of the nation. Except none of that is accurate. In August of 1776, just weeks after the Declaration of Independence was signed, George Washington suffered one of the most catastrophic military defeats in American history, the Battle of Long Island. The British, under General Howe, outmaneuvered, surrounded, and nearly destroyed the entire Continental Army in a single afternoon. Washington lost over 1,000 men in just hours. His soldiers were exhausted, starving, and terrified. The British had superior numbers, superior weapons, and superior training. And here is what the history books leave out. Washington came within one decision of surrender. His officers were begging him to negotiate. Several members of the Continental Congress were privately discussing making peace with Britain. The revolution was 37 days old. It almost ended before it truly began. What saved Washington wasn't bravery. It was fog. A miraculous fog rolled in over the East River on the night of August 29th, so thick that the British couldn't see Washington's men slipping away by boat. 9,000 soldiers crossed to Manhattan in silence, under cover of that fog. History called it a miracle. Washington called it luck. His officers called it the night the revolution refused to die. Most people know about soldiers and battles. Almost nobody talks about the spies. In 1778, George Washington created one of the most sophisticated intelligence operations in history. It was called the Copper Ring, and without it, the United States of America would not exist. Here's how it worked. A small group of ordinary citizens on Long Island, a farmer, a merchant, a tavern owner, a woman, began feeding intelligence directly to Washington. They used invisible ink, coded messages, dead drops in hollow trees. They communicated using numbers instead of names. Washington himself was Agent 711. These weren't trained military agents. They were neighbors risking execution because they believed in something that didn't yet fully exist. The Ring's greatest achievement? They uncovered one of the most devastating betrayals in American history. In 1780, the Copper Ring discovered that General Benedict Arnold, one of Washington's most trusted commanders, was planning to hand West Point directly to the British. The intelligence reached Washington in time. Arnold fled. West Point was saved. Had that betrayal succeeded, the British would have controlled the Hudson River, cutting the colonies in half. The revolution would likely have collapsed within months. One spy network, one intercepted letter. It changed everything. Ask any American why France helped during the revolution, and they'll tell you the same thing. Because France believed in freedom and democracy. That is one of the most romanticized myths in American history. Here's what was actually happening. France had been humiliated by Britain. In the 7 Years' War, known in America as the French and Indian War, France lost Canada, the Caribbean islands, and its dominance in India, all to the British. King Louis XVI didn't send troops to America because he believed in liberty. He sent troops to America because he wanted to destroy the British Empire. France's foreign minister, the Comte de Vergennes, wrote privately that aiding the American rebellion was, and I quote, the greatest blow that could be delivered to England. They weren't saving a revolution. They were fighting a proxy war. Now here's the darkest part of this story. The very ideas of freedom and democracy that France helped export to America, they came back to haunt the French monarchy. By 1789, just 6 years after the Revolutionary War ended, the French people rose up against their own king, inspired in part by the American example. King Louis XVI, who had funded American independence, was executed by his own people in the name of the same liberty he had helped create. History's greatest irony, or history's greatest warning. Washington, Jefferson, Hamilton, Adams. You know these names, but the American Revolution was won by people. History has almost completely erased. Let's talk about 3 of them. First, Haym Salomon, a Polish Jewish immigrant who came to America and became one of the most important financial backers of the Revolution. When the Continental Army was starving at Valley Forge, when Washington couldn't pay his soldiers, when the government was essentially bankrupt, Haym Salomon personally raised and donated the equivalent of millions of dollars in today's money. He also worked as a spy for the Continental cause while imprisoned by the British. Haym Salomon died broke in 1785. The government never paid him back. Congress debated a memorial for him for over 150 years before doing almost nothing. Second, Peter Salem, a formerly enslaved black man who fought at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Eyewitnesses, including British officers, credited Salem with firing the shot that killed British Major Pitcairn, a pivotal moment in the battle. Salem fought throughout the entire Revolution. He received no pension. No land grant, no recognition in the history books for generations. Third, Sybil Ludington. She's often called the female Paul Revere, except her ride was twice as long as his, and she was 16 years old. On April 26, 1777, Sybil rode 40 miles through the night, alone, through dangerous territory, to rally soldiers against a British attack. Paul Revere rode 12 miles. He became a legend. Sybil Ludington rode 40 miles. Almost nobody knows her name. Here's something most Americans don't know about their most important holiday. July 4th, 1776 is not the day independence was declared. The Continental Congress actually voted for independence. On July 2nd, 1776, John Adams, one of the key architects of independence, wrote to his wife Abigail the day after the vote, "The second day of July 1776 will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America." He was absolutely certain July 2nd would be celebrated forever. He was wrong by 2 days. The Declaration wasn't finished being written and edited until July 4th. That's the date it was printed and distributed. That's the date that stuck. And here's the other thing nobody talks about. Most members of Congress didn't actually sign the Declaration on July 4th either. The famous signing, the one you've seen in paintings, took place on August 2nd, 1776. A full month later, some delegates didn't sign until 1781. The painting by John Trumbull that you've seen 100 times, the one hanging in the Capitol Rotunda, it depicts a scene that never happened. Not all those men were even in the same room. At the same time, history is a story, and stories get edited. So why don't we hear these stories? Because history is written by the winners. But more specifically, it's written for a purpose. The version of the revolution taught in schools is designed to inspire, to create national identity, to build pride. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the full story, the messy, complicated, morally ambiguous truth, is so much more powerful because it shows us that the people who built this country were not mythological figures on pedestals. They were people who made desperate decisions under impossible pressure, who depended on spies and fog and luck as much as courage, who stood on the shoulders of people history forgot to remember, and who, despite everything, the debt, betrayal, starvation, and near total collapse, somehow against every odd, built something that lasted. That's the real American Revolution, and that's why we're here. I'm Hidden America TV, and there are 1,000 more stories like this one, waiting to be uncovered. Subscribe. Hit the bell, because the hidden history of America is just getting started.